What is one of the best ways to understand why you do what you do in relationships? Stay tuned to find out. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time in the world it is where you are. How are you, hon? I hope all is well with you and that you are having a wonderful day today. So we are jumping right into the next video in this series. But before I get started, if you are new here, I want to say welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. And also, if you're returning, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate the support of each and every one of you guys, and I always want to take the time to welcome you and thank you. So let's jump right in. Hey, if you see my eyes going over here, I'm not paying attention to something else. I have my notes on a computer this time. I usually have my handy dandy notebook, but I have a computer. So just looking at my notes here real quick. So let's jump right into today's video. So the question at the top was, what is one of the best ways to understand why you do what you do in relationships? So today we'll be discussing attachment styles. We'll looking at these, I should say, offer some of the best insight into understanding why we do what we do in relationships. So attachment styles is what we're talking about today. I don't know if people would have guessed that that's what we were going to be talking about. That's not a topic that is out there in everyday news, but it's a very important topic. So we're going to just dive right in. So first of all, why is it beneficial to learn about attachment styles? According to Google, learning your attachment style is beneficial because it helps you understand the subconscious reasons behind your behavior in relationships, leading to better emotional regulation, improved communication, and healthier interactions. This self-awareness can clarify your needs, help you to navigate conflict, and allow you to build more secure, fulfilling connections. And if all of that were not enough, it is also possible to gradually shift towards a more secure style through awareness and practice. And we'll talk about what the styles are a little bit later in this video. But for right now, I wanted you to know the benefits of an attachment style. So let's get into these benefits. For now, so number one on the list of 5 benefits that Google talked about as far as learning attachment styles. Number 1 is to increase self-awareness. How, you ask? It says, understanding your attachment styles can reveal the subconscious motivation driving your actions, beliefs, and expectations in relationships. So listen, for example, I react a certain way when my partner does or says a certain thing, I or you, or anybody. Why do people react a certain way when their partner does something? Why do people believe certain things about relationships or about their partner? And also, why do they expect certain things in relationships? Attachment styles help us to understand these things. So the second benefit of learning your attachment style is that you have improved emotional regulation. You can learn to recognize and manage your emotional responses, reducing pressure on your relationship and helping you avoid negative patterns. So this one right here, meaning managing your emotions. Can something be hard? Let me slow down. This one, it means managing your emotions, because sometimes it can be hard in relationships because you already love them so much and are passionate about them, or sometimes you disagree with the person that you love and are passionate about your ideas, and you just want them to agree with you, or see it from your standpoint. Also, sometimes you just want to give them a piece of your mind too. But truly, does that really help anything if you coming at it from that standpoint? So not really, not a thing. It doesn't help. But by learning your attachment style, you can be better equipped to manage those strong emotional responses, ultimately making for a less negative relationship. So that is number 2. Number 3, learning about your attachment styles helps towards better conflict resolution. It helps you understand why you and your partner react to conflict in certain ways and how to move toward healthier patterns of interactions. So this one is self-explanatory. Most people want a healthier interaction with their partner to just have peace in their relational life, right? Like most people don't want to fight all the time. Some people do, but most people don't want to fight all the time. They just want peace in the relationship. So this helps with that. Number 4, learning about attachment styles helps clear communication. You can gain insight into your own and others' needs and emotions, leading to more effective communication and understanding. The Bible says, with all things get an understanding in Proverbs 4, 7. Actually, I said that wrong. The King James Version, it says, with all thy getting, get understanding in Proverbs 4, 7, King James Version. Now, the English Standard Version says, whatever you get insight. Getting insight leads the way to understanding yourself and your partner and even other people. So that is the benefit. You get clearer communication and you get an understanding. Number 5, learning about attachment styles helps towards having healthier relationships. So by identifying your patterns, you can consistently work to change them, which fosters more trust and security in your connection with others. Sometimes we may not recognize our relationship patterns as negative, but by looking into attachment styles, we can recognize any negative patterns and work towards being better. So those are the 5 benefits to learning about your attachment style. That is for increased self-awareness, to improve emotional regulation, for better conflict resolution, for clearer communication, and for healthier relationships. So there's one more bonus to learning your attachment styles, and that is the potential for change. So while attachment styles are formed early in life, they are not fixed. Though through self-awareness and new experiences, you can gradually rewire old patterns and move towards a more secure attachment style. This is good news, huh? There's an old saying that say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Honey, the devil is a lie. Don't let the devil tell you or anybody else that you can't learn nothing new at whatever age you are. So the devil is a lie. Things can be changed, even if you've had traumatic experiences, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. The way you relate to people and things and relationships can be changed. So that is good news, and we were going to get into that. So what are the attachment styles? I've talked about the benefits of them, but what are they? So Google states that attachment styles are patterns of relating to others in close relationships shaped by early childhood experiences with caregivers. The 4 main that's that right there. Hold on, let me pause, because that right there is a mouthful. Our interactions with the early caregivers shape us. Have you heard a lot of people talk about traumatic experiences that they had? Oftentimes when they was under 5 years old. So that's a whole mouthful. We'll talk about that. We're going to get into that right now. So the 4 main styles are secure, anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. So they describe how individuals form and maintain bonds affecting their comfort and closeness, independence, and emotional expression. So let's get into each one. First up is the secure attachment style. So individuals with a secure style tend to have balanced relationships, feel comfortable with both closeness and solitude, and can express their needs openly. Excuse me. This is what most people see as the ideal person or the ideal relationship. This is the so-called storybook romance or the relationships that are portrayed on TV. Can people actually have this type of relationship in real life? Absolutely. But for most people, it will take working to overcome negative patterns that may have developed in childhood. So, like I said, don't ever let the devil tell you that nothing is possible. All things are possible with God and with Jesus, honey. So, no matter how messed up a person may be from the early developmental patterns, change can come. There's no such thing as you can't teach an old dog new tricks. There's no such thing. That is not in the Bible. So I reject it and I rebuke it in the name of Jesus. Let me move on. Second up in the attachment styles is anxious attachment style. This style is characterized by a fear of abandonment, a need for reassurance, and worry about the relationship's stability. You ever see a toddler or a kid that just falls apart when their parents leave? Why do they react this way? In their young mind, they fear that the parent is never coming back. Most parents will reassure them that I'm coming back, babe. I'll be right back. Don't cry. It's going to be okay. I'll be back. But if the parents either did not provide or did not consistently provide emotional support and reassurance, the anxious attachment style develops. So, those parents would be like, I'm just going to leave and just let them cry it out and they'll be all right. They will, but they won't at the same time. Yes, they get over it, but also that causes this attachment style, the anxious avoidant attachment style, because they, especially if sometimes they're comforted and then sometimes they're not, the inconsistency causes them to have an anxious avoidant style. So they fear abandonment and they always need reassurance and worry about the relationship stability. And can you see how this can manifest in adulthood? Some adults are like that in relationships as well. So I touched on this a little bit, but going deeper into it, factors contributing to the anxious attachment style: inconsistent caregiving. When caregivers are unpredictable or unavailable, children learn to doubt their own safety and the reliability of others. What's coming to my mind is single parent homes. They learn to rely on one parent, but then the other parent may not be available. And, there's various reasons. This is not to bash anybody for not being available during their child's formative years. It could be various reasons why they're not around. Even death. Some parents pass away when their children are little. They literally cannot be there. They are no longer on this earth. So this is not to bash anybody. So this is just to bring awareness to how the situation may have formed so that we can move past it and move on. So inconsistent caregiving is one factor that contributes to anxious attachment style. Emotional neglect. When caregivers fail to acknowledge or validate a child's emotions, children may feel unloved and insecure. And I think that comes in when sometimes a child may be crying or emotional about something, and a parent or caregiver may say, wipe those tears. This is particularly prevalent with boys. It's like, be a man. Don't show emotion. Don't show fear. Don't show any type of emotion. So their emotions don't get validated. Like, to say you are right for crying, that is a situation that would hurt even me as an adult. But it's like, I understand where that comes from, because this world that we live in is a cruel, cruel world. And so you don't want your child going through life getting hurt all the time. But there is a such thing where you can validate the emotion and talk them through it and still prepare them for life as well. There is a balance. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. So there is a balance. So moving on to the next one. Separation experiences. Frequent or prolonged separation from caregivers can lead to fear of abandonment and heightened need for closeness. So this happens in so many situations, whether the children had to be in foster care or away from their parents, or one particular situation, and I know parents don't necessarily some parents don't look at it like this, but when the parents work a lot too, they are separated from their children a lot sometimes, and it can cause that as well. So we know we have to work, but sometimes things form. It's not, again, this is not to bash anybody. This is just bringing information as to how these things may have formed and what we can do to move on. I will offer some guidance that is given on how to move on from these things. So that's how it may have formed, whether intentional or unintentional. But the lack of presence by a caregiver or parent can cause separation experiences. Also, trauma events such as abuse or neglect can severely disrupt a child's sense of safety and trust, fostering anxious attachment. And last but not least, I don't really have much to say about the trauma. I think that's self-explanatory. When somebody is traumatized, you can tell the reactions that they have been traumatized. So, and then last but not least on that list, parental anxiety. So when parents themselves who have anxious attachment styles, they may model insecure behaviors and pass that attachment pattern on to their children. So the inconsistency, the different things of that nature, because that was modeled for them, they kind of model it again for their kids, and it's like the pattern and the cycle continues. So these patterns can manifest in childhood and in adulthood, both as fear of abandonment, hypervigilance to a partner's behavior. That partner that, like, they got to know every single move you're making. They want your location notice on. They want to check your phone. They want to make sure who you're talking to, where you going every minute of the day. They're being hypervigilant. So of course we know there is accountability in relationships. You do tell your partner, okay, I'm going, for safety reasons, I'm going to the store, or I'm going X, Y, and Z, or whatever. But the person that's overly, like, they have to know every single thing, or if you don't tell them one little thing, they are jumping off the deep end like you're cheating on them, or it's like, okay, that could be a pattern of this anxious attachment style. So that is that. Also, let me get back to my place here. Also, difficulty trusting others is another pattern that can manifest in children and adults. Always double checking and triple checking, and they don't trust what you say. They go behind you and ask somebody else. It could be they don't trust an individual, or they just have trust issues in general. So if it's just in general, then it may be caused by this as well. And then also an excessive need for reassurance, like the kid always like, are you coming back? Mom, are you coming back? Dad, are you coming back? Making sure that, they are not going to be forgotten about or abandoned. Listen, Israel Houghton has a whole song, and I know it's in regards to God. He's like, I am not forgotten, right? Because that's often the fear of kids and adults. Think about this. I know we're talking about from a kid's standpoint. I'm talking about from kids and adult standpoint, but it's the same fear. Like kids, if they get lost in a store or something, they're afraid that they're going to be left behind or lost. A lot of times adults get lost in the shuffle too, because as adults you have autonomy to do what you want, come and go as you please. But oftentimes family and friends think that you're okay unless they hear from you otherwise, right? Like, especially if you're a quieter person, they're like, oh, they're probably doing fine. I haven't heard from them, so they're doing good. But not necessarily all the time. So sometimes certain people have an excessive need for reassurance, but also they develop this from the need to from the anxious avoidant attachment style, because they were what they felt like was abandoned as a kid. So they still need to be reassured as an adult in relationships in particular, that the person is coming back, that that you still love them, or however it manifests. Like sometimes I think it manifests in adulthood, like in relationships where that You have that person who always says, I love you. Do you love me? Like, they want to make sure that you love them, that you are there for them, because maybe they did not get that reassurance as a kid. So it can come in that form as well. Also, the patterns that can manifest in childhood and adulthood: low self-esteem, because they feel almost devalued, that their parent didn't even want to be around them. We know that probably is not true, likely, but that's how it can feel to a person who feels abandoned. Like, man, my parent left me here with these other people, or even if it's like a few hours, sometimes they can feel like that, like they felt abandoned, and it can cause low self-esteem. So, and also difficulty regulating emotions. Some people, they retreat inward. Other people lash out. So they are angry more, or express really passionate emotions, and not necessarily when the times that you would expect them. So like if they get mad about something because something made them mad, that's one thing. But when they are just lashing out or having difficulties controlling their anger or what have you on a regular basis, it may be because of this as well. So, and it's understandable. Let me just go on a side note here. If you feel abandoned by your caregivers, parents, caregivers, what have you, sometimes kids aren't allowed to express their frustration with their parents when their parents do crazy stuff. And it's like, if they were an adult talking to another adult, they would be like, this is crazy what you did to me. But they're a child, so oftentimes they're told to stay in a child's place. But some of the stuff that adults do to children is dead wrong. Let's be clear and let's be honest. Some of the stuff that adults do to children is really dead wrong, but they have to suppress it because it's like stay in a child's place and different things like that. So a lot of children cannot express their anger or frustration with their parents, but where you see this play out, when they get of age, like age of majority, where they can make their own decisions, they won't be around the parent. So they're like, you kind of crazy. I'm not dealing with the foolishness that you put me through as a child. I will put a boundary up, and I will only talk to you in certain situations, and I just won't build my life around you because you're pretty crazy. So, those are conversations that, I think that's a touchy subject, because some parents go around saying certain things about their children, but I don't know. You have to, there's two sides to each story. I'll say that. Let me move on. Let me move on, because I ain't trying to bark up nobody's street. This is not about, this is not about calling anybody out. This is about bringing awareness. But yes, those things do happen. So, what are the treatments and interventions? Let's get to moving past what happened and moving into what we can do to help these things. So, the treatments and intervention for anxious attachment style are therapies, especially cognitive behavioral therapies. I've mentioned that in previous videos. I actually myself went to that one. It was very, very helpful. And I plan to go back and find my insurance recently changed, so I can no longer go to my same counselor, but I am going to find a person to go to continue that therapy, because it was very helpful. Just a little bit background of my story, and I didn't plan to share this, but I feel led to share it right now. I used to be the kid that would cry all the time, honey. I would cry at the drop of a dime, because now I know that I probably am on that spectrum of highly sensitive people. I really feel empathy for other people. Like when I see people going through, it really like disturbs my spirit and my soul. And also when people do crazy stuff to me, it really affects me. It used to, not as much anymore, but it used to affect me really in a negative way. So I would cry a lot, because I did not as a kid have the words to express what I felt in the moment of something happening, whether someone had done something to me or what have you. I didn't have the words to express. So the only way I could get that out, now I know, was to cry. So cognitive behavioral therapy, the first thing my counselor told me to do was journal. That allowed me to get so many emotions out. It allowed me to process, okay, well, why do I feel so emotional when so-and-so does X, Y, and Z? Or why does this affect me in that way and this way? It gave words to my emotions. Yes, we know emotions: happy, sad, frustrated, the different ones, the first level emotions and the second level emotions, third level emotions. There's all different levels of emotions. But cognitive behavioral therapy for me helped me to process through those things. As I mentioned, it takes you back on a journey. You start out where you are, whatever, today, and then your mind starts to go back and process other things. And where I am right now is starting to process things from my childhood. So I want to finish that journey. But as I mentioned, I had gotten to a point where I really didn't have a care in the world. So, and I'm already on that track. I'm on that track right now, meaning people could say X, Y, and Z to me right now. The cares I do not give. I'ma just say, oh, okay. Like the little kids say, I'm rubber, you're glue. What you say bounces off of me and sticks to you. When people say sideways stuff now, it's going to be one or two responses. Either I'm not going to say nothing and I'm going to just let you have it, and I'm going to let God fight my battles, because he often does. People who do crazy sideways stuff to me, and I'm not wishing anything bad on them. I be praying, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. But oftentimes there's a debt to be paid, and it will be paid. Or, I might say something. I might just ask a question and just be like, well, praise God, and then move on with my life, honey. You're not going to get me offended and all up in my feelings. That's what's not going to happen. So, moving on though, cognitive behavioral therapy is an excellent tool. So, what's said about therapy, especially cognitive behavioral therapy, can help individuals with anxious attachment develop healthier attachment patterns. Treatment focuses on understanding the root of the attachment anxiety, building self-esteem and trust, developing coping mechanisms for managing fear and insecurity, improving communications and relationship skills, and learning to regulate emotions effectively. It's important to note that anxious attachment is a common attachment style, and with appropriate support and interventions, individuals can overcome the challenges and build secure and fulfilling relationships. Listen, as I mentioned, I was on this track and loved everything that therapy has done for me. I feel like I can speak my mind more freely and clearly now. I can identify my emotions more clearly, and I can, advocate for myself more frequently and more, I'm looking for the right word, more effectively advocate for myself. So, I used to not speak up for myself, but now I do. And if somebody transgresses a boundary, then I will just put that boundary back in place. So, and leave it at that. And I'm not gonna go back and forth with nobody. As it's a song that say, I'm living my best life. I'm not going back and forth with y'all. I'm not gonna go back and forth with people, because people gonna be people, but I'm gonna be me. And God gonna be God, and he still sits on the throne and sits high and looks low. So I am just going to live my life, and whatever people think is what they think, because they gonna think it anyway. So moving on to the next one. As I get off my soapbox here, I be getting on this soapbox sometimes. But next up is the avoidant attachment style. People with this style often prefer emotional distance, independence, and may avoid discussing deep feelings. This one comes from avoidant attachment development as a coping mechanism in response to early childhood experiences where the person's emotional needs were not met or were consistently rejected. As I mentioned, like particularly with boys, where they're told to buck up, pal, and be a man and stop crying, wipe away them tears, all the psychological training that our culture takes boys through to be a man, and I say it in quotes because he's still a man, even if he has emotions. So that's a whole nother thing. But the factors, let me get into these factors contributing to the avoidant attachment style is inconsistent or neglectful caregivers. Where caregivers are emotionally unavailable, dismissive, or neglectful, children may learn to suppress their emotions and avoid seeking closeness. Rejection of emotional expression. If caregivers discourage or punish emotional expression, children may develop a pattern of withdrawing from intimate relationships. So how this manifests, as I mentioned, this is a lot of times boys are conditioned to not express their emotions, but then when they get into a relationship, it's problematic to the woman in their life because they can't express themselves in the same way that she may be able to. She may be able to put words, and I've heard it said the women can talk. They can say, spout out the mouth, "You're getting on my nerves. You're da 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 da." They say their emotions, but the man often retreats and does not say his emotions because he's never been taught to. Oftentimes, so that is where this style kind of comes in. And again, not to bash anybody, we're just giving information. So trauma or traumatic experiences such as abuse or neglect can also contribute to developing the avoidant attachment style. And then parental anxiety or insecurity. If caregivers have their own attachment issues, they may model avoidant behavior and create an environment where it's difficult for children to feel secure. So what is the process of development, or what does the avoidant attachment style look like throughout various stages? Well, in early childhood, children experience a lack of emotional support and learn to cope by suppressing their feelings. In adolescence continue this avoidant intimacy and emotional vulnerability, fearing rejection or abandonment. And then adults with avoidant attachment may struggle with trust, intimacy, and emotional expression in relationships. They may also have difficulty recognizing their own emotions and may avoid seeking help when they need it. You hear oftentimes men don't want to go to counseling or don't want to do certain things with their wives or with their significant others. So that is where it can come in sometimes because they have had repressed emotions from childhood. It's difficult to express those. With these, it's important to note that not everyone who experiences early neglect or rejection will develop avoidant attachment. However, these factors increase the risk of developing this attachment style. So what they're saying is some people can be perfectly okay, but others may not. So it just depends on the person. Now, treatment for avoidant attachment include professional therapy, as I mentioned, like cognitive behavioral therapy or attachment-based therapy, self-directed practices such as journaling and mindfulness, and relationship skills development, including gradual vulnerability and boundary setting. With gradual vulnerability, I've found that men in long-term relationships eventually open up to the woman in their life or their significant other. So it's sometimes a process, but it's like pulling them out of their avoidant shell. With patience, sometimes it pulls them out. So therapy provides a safe space to explore triggers and build new patterns, while self-help strategies build emotional awareness and resilience. Under professional therapy, there is attachment-based therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, emotional focus therapy, EMDR or somatic therapies, and couple therapies. So just to go through those really briefly, attachment-based therapy, there is attachment-based therapy, which focuses on understanding the origins of your attachment style from childhood to reshape the patterns. Next is cognitive-based therapy, which helps identify the change negative thought patterns and behaviors that fuel avoidance. Schema therapy is a specialized form that works on deeply ingrained beliefs about intimacy. Then there is emotional focus therapy, which guides you in better understanding and expressing emotions to build trust and security in relationships. Next is what's called EMDR, also or somatic therapies. Consider these if your avoidance stems from trauma, as they can help process difficult memories and nervous system responses. It's said to help a person reprocess memories, that is, to help the brain process traumatic memories so that a person can still remember the events, but without the same level of emotional distress. And lastly, couples therapy, which is emotionally focused couples therapy, can help couples with avoidant attachment learn to communicate and engage more openly and empathetically, right? So, as an alternative to professional therapy, there is self-directed interventions. So, if you don't feel comfortable going in the office with a counselor or even doing online counseling, you can do self-directed therapies, which include the practice of emotional awareness, which is where you take time for emotional check-ins throughout the day to identify what you're feeling, and or use emotional journaling to write about your feelings without judgment to get more comfortable with your inner emotional world. That one worked tremendously for myself. Like I said, it helped me to get all those emotions out, and I do not cry as much. Yes, I am still an emotional person, but the crying at the drop of a dime, no longer. I'm able to talk through emotions, talk through what have you. Whatever is going on in life, I'm able to talk it through. I'm able to hear the person and not get emotional. That I think what it was as a kid, when somebody gave me feedback, I looked at it as like they hurt my feelings, because it's like I probably had low self-esteem to think that they're talking about me, meaning I'm not good, not the thing that I'm doing. There's a difference. Like, when people are giving you feedback, they're talking about the thing that you're doing. They're not saying that you're not valuable. You're valuable to them, but the thing that you're doing is not valuable. So they're asking for a change in behavior because that is not serving you or them, most likely. So it's not about your value as a person. It's about the behavior, which that can be changed. So it's not a reflection of your self-worth. So that is what I learned through journaling. And like I said, that helped me tremendous. And also through Bible reading. Let me put that in here too. This is the Wise Woman Way. So we are always trying to seek the wisdom of God. Reading the Bible helped me to see how much God loves us, how much God loves me. Let me be more clear. If God can deal with all the imperfect people that are in the Bible, I was just as imperfect as they were. So if he loves them, he loves me the same. And I want you to know that too. Don't think that being a Christian is about perfection, because it is not. And you will get disappointed if you think it is. So it is about us walking with God, walking perfect. You can be perfect. I said this on a video previously. You cannot be perfect in your own self, but you can be perfect by perfectly walking with God. Walk with him always. And that's how you can be perfect. Always follow his spirit. Always walk with him. That's how you can be perfect. So in our own flesh and our own strength, we could not be perfect, but just perfectly follow him. That's what the Bible means when it talks about perfecting faith. So that is that. Next, under self-directed intervention, is to gradually practice vulnerability. That is, it is recommended to start small by sharing minor concerns or preferences with a trusted friend, and use I statements to express your feelings and needs clarity. Another alternative under self-directed intervention. Oh, wait, let me not scroll past that one. Gradually practice vulnerability. Like I said, I feel like often men in relationships, if they have had this type of block where they're avoidant, when they learn that they can trust the woman that they're with or their significant other, then they will open up sometimes to share certain things with her. So that's usually a process over time, but that is actually a self-directed intervention. And little do they know, they're doing therapy on their own selves. So thank God for Jesus. God is good. Another alternative under self-directed intervention is to build relationship skills. That is, practice active listening to focus on hearing others fully, and also learn to set and maintain healthy boundaries to balance your need for space with a desire for connection. Oh, child, listen, I am one who needs a lot of space. Let me say this. After a long day of doing certain tasks, most tasks, I have to recharge. I have to. Like, I have to. I don't even know any other way to say it. I have to recharge. Like, so for me, when I was younger, I used to could maybe, but I wasn't doing as much as well. But I maybe could talk on the phone to my friends, talk to my boyfriend, talk to, go out and do this, do that, and bopping around town. But when life started to life and adult team started to be adult team, like I said, I worked full-time job. I went to school at night, still had to come home from night school, 9, 10, 11 at night, and still cook, still make sure that we was ready for the next day, and literally burning the candlestick at both ends and running on fumes. I have to recharge. And I feel like I'm still in that mode, even though I'm not doing as much. I'm still doing a lot, but not as much as I was back then. But I don't know if it's just years of going so hard. And maybe I probably experienced burnout as well. That's a thing also. But I feel like I still have to recharge. Like, I cannot just live on fumes anymore. In my, I am 46 right now. I have no shame in saying my age, but I cannot live on fumes anymore. I have to recharge. So, the only thing about that is, I would say my relationships suffer because I am so tired oftentimes that I don't want to talk. It's not that I don't want to talk to that person. It's not about the person. It is about my need for recharging. Like, in order for me to be okay for tomorrow, I need to go to bed. I need to go to bed is what it is. So, and I don't know if that's just getting older, honey. Y'all let me know in the comments. Do y'all feel the same way? Do y'all just have to go to bed, honey? Like, once I'm on a vacation, I could probably kick it and chill, but a lot of times, or like on the weekend, or when you have time off, but other time during the week, I got to go to bed, honey. Because I ain't gonna be no good for the next day if I don't get my rest. So, maybe that's just me, but other people may be having energy, so that might be my thing. So, lastly, under self-directed alternative is to develop self-compassion. Recognize that your avoidant patterns were protective strategies in the past, and practice self-forgiveness to be kinder to yourself during healing process. I would say yes, and yes. Sometimes people are very hard on themselves. I think I have probably been hard on myself. But when you're young, you just don't know what you don't know. You know what I'm saying? So you can't judge your younger self sometimes. Sometimes we try to judge our younger self based on what we know now, but we didn't know that back then. So really, you can't judge your younger self. So if you do have this style or any of the other styles, be compassionate with yourself and show your own self some grace. Okay? So we'll leave it at that. Also, last but not least, the fourth attachment style is disorganized attachment style. This style often stems from past traumas or instability and can involve inconsistent behaviors such as seeking closeness and then pulling away. Factors contributing to the disorganized attachment style include disorganized attachments stems from childhood experiences where a caregiver is both a source of comfort and a source of fear, primarily due to abuse or neglect, whether physical, emotional, or verbal. Inconsistent and frightening caregiving or witnessing domestic violence. Other contributing factors include a caregiver's unresolved trauma and mental health issues and living in a chaotic or emotionally unsafe environment. So, the closeness and pulling away of it all, you see this oftentimes play out in relationships. And not to say it's just a man thing, it's just relationships. One partner, they cleave to their partner. They're like, oh, that's my boo, I love them. They are all lovey-dovey with them, and then they kind of go away from them, like, oh, they're getting on my nerves, just like pulling away. So it's the cycle of closeness and then pulling away, closeness and pulling away. It is this disorganized attachment style, because they learned that in childhood, unfortunately. So abuse and neglect can include physical, emotional, or sexual abuse. A child may seek comfort from the same person who caused them harm, creating a cycle of fear and dependency. You find this in children who are being taken from their parents who are abusive. You oftentimes hear caseworkers say that even though the parent might be abusive, the child still reaches out for them for comfort. Like, no, don't let this lady, who is this lady trying to take me away from you, But the, child safety and protective services are trying to take them away because that person is putting them in harm's way. But the child still reaches out for them. So that is how this style is. These are real life things. This is not just textbook. Yes, it's in textbooks, but it is in textbooks for a reason, because these things actually happen in life. So also, abuse can be in the form of neglect, where chronic neglect leads to feelings of fear and insecurity, where whether the kids don't have food to eat or different things of that nature. I heard one very famous athlete talk about her story, and how her parent got a cat, I believe it was either a dog or a cat, and the parent was feeding the pet and was not feeding her as a child. And so it's like, my God, you wouldn't think that something like that would happen, but it happens all the time, unfortunately. So and this is also due to inconsistent or unpredictable caregiving, where it's a source of fear. When a caregiver who is supposed to be the source of safety is also frightening or aggressive, a child is left with a confusing or terrifying dynamic. Emotional unreliability, that's where caregivers who are inconsistently available or unpredictable in responding to a child's need can make a child struggle to develop trust and a sense of stability. Inconsistent responses to distress. A caregiver might respond to a child's fear or cries with yelling or intimidation, or with kindness one moment and neglect the next. So everything from yelling at the kid for crying to comforting them another time, and then another time just ignoring them. So it's like the parenting style or caregiver style is chaotic, and it causes disorganized, attachment style. So trauma within the family environment, domestic violence. Sometimes witnessing domestic violence between adults in the home can be a significant factor. Parental issues, a caregiver dealing with their own unresolved trauma, mental health conditions, or substance abuse can unintentionally create an unstable environment. And emotional and psychological factors, unresolved grief and trauma, a parent's own past trauma can pass down and influence their parenting, impacting the child's attachment style. And emotional invalidation, a child who is not allowed to express emotions or have their feelings dismissed is at risk of developing this attachment style. So what are the treatments for disorganized attachment style? The treatments involve therapy, as we've mentioned several times, especially attachment-based and trauma-informed therapy, to process past trauma and learn new relationship patterns, building secure relationships with supportive people, and practicing self-compassion and self-regulation. Key strategies include working with a therapist to build a secure bond and challenge negative thoughts, surrounding yourself with consistent and caring people, and using mindfulness and journaling to manage emotional triggers. So, as I mentioned with my own story, the journaling really, really helped. Therapeutic approaches, that is the attachment-based psychotherapy. This type of therapy creates a secure attachment with the therapist, allowing you to explore past attachment experiences and learn new ways of relating and communicating. Trauma-informed therapy Since disorganized attachment is often rooted in trauma, therapies like EMDR, which I mentioned before, and that actually stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or somatic therapy, can be particularly helpful for processing past experiences without traumatization. Child, I'm struggling through these words, but I'm going to get through it. Cognitive behavioral therapy, my favorite. As I mentioned, they give you assignments. The other ones just listen to you. So I like the cognitive behavioral therapy. So CBT helps identify and change negative thought patterns and contribute to unhealthy behaviors and emotional responses. Dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT, which I mentioned that in another video but didn't go into it. So DBT is effective for managing intense emotions and developing skills for healthier communication and relationships. And also family therapies. For some, attachment-based family therapy can help rebuild trust and improve dynamics within the family unit. So these are the types of, let me turn my light up so you guys can see me. Then got in the dark now, honey, out here talking about these attachment styles, building new relationships and support. So these are things that help cultivate secure relationships, seek out and nurture relationships with people who are consistent, reliable, and emotionally safe. Honey, child, I ain't gonna even say what I was gonna say. Let me move on. Earn secure attachment. Slowly share your personal history with trusted individuals to build new, deeper bonds based on trust. So don't give them all up front. You do that slowly over time to build a strong foundation of a relationship. So, and I mean relationship with friends and, traditional relationships. So self-help and self-regulation. Practice self-compassion. Treat yourself with kindness and understanding, particularly when facing emotional triggers. Focus on overall well-being. Prioritize healthy habits like regular sleep, balanced meals, and stress management to support your mental health. Honey, that is what I have been on. I eat healthy now, all natural. I'll get into that too here. I got to get that sleep in. And I just have to have a calm evening routine to make sure that my mental health is on point for the next day. So that is what I have to do for myself, and it is very much helpful. So what they're saying is not just, again, this is not just in the textbook. These are real life principles that do work. Develop self-awareness. Learn to identify your triggers and how your body and mind react to them. Ooh, child. I read a good article on, I want to say it was LinkedIn. It was either LinkedIn or Pinterest, but they showed where certain emotions show up in your body. Like, I think anger was in the heart, and we already kind of know this. Like, certain feelings, when you're feeling like nervous, you feel it in the pit of your stomach. So when you feel those things, keen into what emotion am I feeling? So when your chest burns, is that anger? Is that sadness? Is that frustration? When your stomach is feeling queasy or like nervous, what is that like? Is that unsureness? Is that anxiety? When we key into our body's triggers, our bodies tell us a lot. I remember when I was working for the government, I used to get soreness in the back of my neck, and it was stress, honey, is what it was. So keying into what our bodies is trying to tell us emotionally is really helpful. And improving emotional regulations. Use strategies like journaling and mindfulness to improve emotional regulation. Use strategies like journaling and mindfulness to manage emotional responses and develop greater stability. Honey, that helped me tremendously. Child, I probably have been needing counseling since I was a child, honey. Just gonna be honest with you. But I had went through some traumatic experiences, so I won't get into that here. But counseling helped tremendously, and journaling helped tremendously. Also, communicate openly. Practice expressing your feelings and needs clearly and constructively in your relationships. Child, that again, like I said, advocating for yourself, speaking up for yourself, it helps tremendously, because I saw this one thing. It was like a meme. It said, or it might have been a video or a short on YouTube. It was like, oftentimes some relationship problems come because you didn't put the person in check the first time they tried to play you. So, not to say that it's all about checking somebody or, being attitudinal with somebody, but sometimes it is about speaking up for yourself when somebody says something sideways or does something sideways. It is about advocating for yourself. So it doesn't have to be in an attitudinal way, but you speak up for yourself. And it helps to release those emotions. So instead of you stewing all night over something somebody said, you said what was on your mind and moved on with your life, honey, and called it a day. And it is what it is. I said what I said, as Nene Leakes said, who I look up to in regards to speaking her mind and not caring. So I said what I said, and we're moving on. So how do we approach these interventions, whether professional or self-directed? These tips were listed under the avoidance attachment style, but are applicable to most of them. So how should we approach these interventions? Start with small, consistent steps. Healing is a gradual process that involves building new habits and comfort levels slowly. Be patient and persistent. It takes time and effort to change long-standing patterns, but secure attachment is achievable at any age. Communicate with trusted partners. Let your partners know that you sometimes need space to process emotions. This is about managing your need to stay connected, not pushing them away. So, how this manifests in my life, I had to take time for myself on Sabbaths, on Saturday mornings. So my son's dad, for me, would take my son on Saturday mornings, and I could get out and about and do, whatever I wanted to do. I'd just take 4 hours on a Saturday morning from 8 to 12, and I would have a ball, honey. Go out to eat somewhere. Usually I got breakfast or brunch. Go to a mall and walk around an outdoor mall, somewhere I had never been before. And by us switching off co-parenting, after I've shared on here my kind of relationship story, not the full thing, but at a certain point we were no longer together, but we still co-parented effectively together. So thank God for him. He would take my son on Saturday mornings, and I could get out and just have some time to refresh, and it did me wonders. And vice versa for him. So thank God for a co-parent that supports you, and family and friends that support you as well. So that is that. So just to really wrap it up here, how does understanding why you do what you do in relationships, let me say that again. So what is one of the best ways to understand why you do what you do in relationships? It is to learn about your attachment style. If you need help in the process, look into counseling, as a counselor can lead you through the process and recognizing of your patterns and the process of healing. Or with that, contact your insurance company to find options or look into counseling resources. You can also look into a counselor outside of your insurance and use your FSA flex spending account or HSA health spending account if you have one of those and pay into it. So you can use the money there to pay for it outside of still technically in your insurance, but it's really outside of it. So you can just pay them a straight fee instead of the copay. So if you wanted to kind of be a little bit outside of your insurance. So even if you don't feel comfortable going to or talking to a counselor, explore self-healing resources that can help. Either way, be empowered if you need to work on being better in relationships. So, guys, take care, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good one. Bye-bye.